Hi guys, it's Jago. I think I wanted to do a quick message on fear. I know I'm not in my usual driving around and sort of talking whilst I'm driving. I've had a busy morning and I've just got back, and I've been meaning to do one whilst I was charging up um, at the charge station, but I got accosted by a load of old people wanting to talk about electric cars and that kind of junk. So I've been thinking about fear, and one of my previous videos was about sort of being brave and getting over the fear of quitting your job. But I just wanted to go in more depth about fear itself. Um, Fear is obviously a lot of emotions and a lot of things that are created in the mind are all imaginary. So and a lot of the time, the imaginary things are the ones that give you the most amount of pain or cause the most amount of suffering throughout your life. Now, fear is attributed to your ego, and your ego wants to do what it wants to do, and fear is one of its tools to keep you alive, basically, keep you in, you know, hundreds of thousands of years ago when we were, chasing food and hunting and gathering, and there were predators and all the rest of it, and also, we were subject to adverse weather conditions or starvation or um, tribal rivalry and all that other junk. Fear kept you alive. Nowadays, we live in a modern world where fear shouldn't take a real it shouldn't be a thing that we should be worried about. There are no predators out there apart from other sort of not so cool humans that get off on exploiting other people's fears. That gives them power and empowers their ego. But that's another trip. That's somebody else trying to leech off the negative energy of other sort of weaker people, people that project a lot of fear. Um, so fear is a creature that lives within inside all of us, that is designed to keep us alive. But it's not needed nowadays. There's nothing to be scared of. And when you're faced with in business, so personal, it works on both sides, personal and business. But if you're like me, you sort of the two become merged into one, where I don't really see a point in having a sort of business side and a personal side, because naturally you end up with this dualistic personality, and you having to wind down after work, or getting wound up on the way to work, or whatever. I just feel that you should just be one, and instead of letting the ego rule your decisions in your life, let the self, the consciousness self. You have to be aware that there are uh, two people within all of us. Some of us have got more than one people, but that's another thing. And we should recognize that whenever we say something, or whatever we do in our day-to-day life, whatever we talk to people or interact with other humans or interact with animals or whatever we're interacting with, we need to make sure that it's from the self-interest, from the self that is communicating with the other thing. If you allow the ego to interact with the other thing, then you're not doing it out of their best interest. You're doing it out of your best interest, which isn't you, it's your ego. You're trying to keep the devil on your shoulder alive, basically. And this is where fear comes in for me. For me, anyway. I don't profess that this is the right way or any wrong way or anything, but I often find myself talking to other people, and I sometimes have to check myself to say, hang about, are you doing this for the self? Because the self is all about projecting love and harmony and making sure that they're okay, the other humans or creatures or whatever is okay, being selfless. Whereas the ego is very self-centered, It wants everything for themselves, because we are and we have been brought up in a society and a sort of economical system that rewards selfishness. We want more, we want more, we want more. And fear, unfortunately, holds us back from doing the right thing. And likewise, it'll affect you in your business as well. Whereas the fear of, say, you've been given a project or you've been asked a certain amount of information to produce some information, and the fear would always say, no, I can't do it because I'm not confident or I'm scared or whatever. I've properly dropped myself into some real situations recently, well, in the last year, where I'm massively out of my comfort zone. And whereas fear would my usual when I was in my comfort zone, when I was working full time and I was, director of the agency, and I would have said no, I would have been a bit fearful, and stayed within the comforts. And that was my ego saying, you're alive now, you're safe, you're earning money, don't try and break it, Jamie. Don't do anything to break that. I'm alive and I'm safe. And then you get caught up in the system and all the rest of it. So I've recently started just saying yes to projects. Well, I have done so for the last good year, 6 months or so. And I've got myself involved with projects that are well out of my comfort zone, well out of my sort of knowledge zone. But I have the confidence in myself to learn anything that's needed. I did a blog post on my website, say, give me 24 hours. And I reckon nowadays, with the access to information and all the rest of it online, in books, I mean, I have quite an extensive library of information and all the rest of it, and also, Google. But we shouldn't get too reliant on Google. We should try and find out our own research elsewhere, through word of mouth and literature and all the rest of it. And through meditation and thought, and actually thought is the main thing. I managed to quantify the fears. I was given an opportunity on a project that's fairly large, and sort of well outside my comfort zone of what I could do as a single individual, as a sort of a person on their own. And I basically quantified the fears, and I ranged them from sort of. I read a book by Tim Ferriss a while back called The 4 Hour Workweek, and basically he suggests that you sort of list out all your fears, or your inadequacies in that particular project where you don't feel you are competent, and put a time against it and how long it would take you to get up to scratch with it. Or write down the worst case scenarios for each one, and once you quantify them, like 1 to 10 or whatever. 1 being like you're dead, and 10 being nothing will happen. Sun will rise in the morning and will go down at night. And once you've quantified those, you can rationalize the fear and actually negotiate with yourself and say, right, well, my fear is being irrational in this scenario, and it wouldn't take me very long. And wouldn't take me long to get to know that bit of knowledge, and it'll take me 20 minutes to learn about this thing, and then I know about it or whatnot. So I wrote a blog post about 24 hours, and I reckon in 24 hours you could get up to scratch. You could learn a thin veneer, and some detailed bits on quite specific things, within 24 hours. And that's where fear would easily say to you, nah, don't bother, it's too scary, it's not worth it. So yeah, so I wanted to get this out, just to let you know that these aren't scripted. I just have a ping in my head, and I think, well, I'm going to talk about it. The next one I think I'm going to talk about, I had a comment on one of my one of the videos about clients that forget that you are a freelancer, and they start treating you like an employee, and I think that'll be the next video. So if you like what you hear, it'd be great for you to subscribe or share or whatnot. And if I've heard that my mom's watching, so hi mom. Yeah. So yeah. So if you get a chance, look up Eckhart Tolle, and he teaches about the duality within all of us, and the self and the ego, and he teaches about the different facets of the ego, the pain body and the fear. Um, and the pain body is trying to keep punishing you for no reason, and also the fact that it likes to be punished, and also the fear of doing anything new and stopping you as a human growing and moving forward. If you recognize that that creature is within all of us, um, you can learn to counteract it and almost second guess it, and within your own mind negotiate out all the sort of problems that could occur in any situation. And it's important that you approach every obstacle or every uh, instance of your life with an open mind, and from the self, and rather than what can happen, what can that thing do for me personally, rather than what can I do for them. And ultimately you'll be rewarded in sort of the whole rounded scenario. So yeah, so this is Jago Think, and I'll speak to you again soon. Have a good day.